Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for coming to the Thursday class. Our guest today is Dr. Kamal Subhas, who's born in India and studied in Nagpur, completing his professional studies. He moved to the UK in 2004, teaching at Edinburgh and London hospitals, and is now practicing consultant as an ethicist. But don't worry, he won't be getting us to fall asleep. He's here for the aftercare, which is to awaken us. So you should be assured we're in good hands. He's married with 2 children, the recent addition just in January, and they've named their son Krishna. Since his school days, he did extensive reading, many spiritual books by various spiritualists. However, after hearing Srila Prabhupada lectures in 2014, and with regular association of devotees at both Watford and London ISKCON, his spiritual knowledge and thirst has been awakened. He regularly reads Srila Prabhupada's books and is presently doing the Bhakti Shastri course and has an exam coming up shortly, I believe. Thank you, Prabhuji, for taking your time and joining us. That's appreciated. Over to you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for joining. Yeah, thanks to Dharmendra Prabhu and Madan Prabhu for organizing and inviting me to talk. So my aim here with this presentation is basically to focus just not on the story part of the Bhagavatam, but also to extract the learning points so that we can learn from this chapter rather than just tell the story to you. And what I would encourage is that that you ask as many questions as you want. Don't worry about that, but you can raise your hands. And if I don't take up the question at that time, just put it on the chat and I'll take it at the end. Okay. So my aim is to make sure that the presentation finishes in an hour's time. Maybe so we'll make a start straight away. Let's start with the Mangalacharan prayers. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome everyone. So let me first present the link and the overview of the first canto. And I would like to first congratulate all of you that you have reached up to the 13th chapter today. So it's a very nice initiative that you have taken. So far what you have covered is the part A section, which is chapters 1 to 3 of the Bhagavatam, which dealt with the 6 questions of the sages of Naimisharanya. And then you covered the part B, which was from chapter number 4 to chapter number 7, which told about the history of Srimad Bhagavatam. And now we are in part C. And of the part C, you completed chapter 12, which is the birth of Parikshit Maharaj. Now we are starting the second aspect of the part C, which is the activities of Parikshit Maharaj. And essentially, the link from chapter 12 onwards, the link is that after describing the birth of Parikshit Maharaj, Sukadeva Goswami is now going to describe all the activities that lead to Maharaj Parikshit's coronation. And the last part of part C would be the 19th chapter, which is the meeting with Sukadeva Goswami, and that is when the Bhagavatam recitation actually begins. by Sukadeva Goswami. So the way I'll present is, firstly, I'll give an overview of the chapter. And then the chapter is divided into 6 sections. We'll go through each section, but we'll just pick up the important verses from these sections, because otherwise it won't be possible to cover within 1 hour. So pick up from the relevant shlokas and purports, and we will focus on the important messages for our elevation in our devotional service. So in our elevation in Krishna consciousness. So all those things that we can extract from this chapter. And then we'll have a question and answer session. So firstly, just because this is going to be an interactive presentation, so quickly, anybody wants to say, what's the highest purpose? Why are you doing this Srimad Bhagavatam reading every week? So what's the highest purpose that you want to achieve with this in human life? Or what is the ultimate purpose of human life? Anybody wants to say?
Is it to prepare us for death?
Prepare us for death. Okay.
To come closer to Krishna.
Sorry, Mataji, I couldn't hear clearly.
To come closer to Krishna.
To come closer to
love
Krishna.
him.
Yes. Yes.
For
Okay.
us to know all the leelas that Krishna has done.
To know about all the leelas. Yes. Okay. So basically, I'll tell what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said is the highest purpose. And before that, firstly, Srimad Bhagavatam is actually is a commentary, is a natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. The first aphorism in Vedanta Sutra says, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. So basically, it says that now that you have got a human life, the first thing that you need to do is it's time to inquire about the absolute truth, because of the 8,400,000 species of life, only the humans can inquire into the absolute truth and know about the absolute truth. So this is what you need to do. And Srimad Bhagavatam is a natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So it tells about the absolute truth. Now, what is the absolute truth? Absolute truth, as you rightly said, is to know about the self and about our relationship with the Supreme Self. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentions that the highest goal of human life is to achieve the prema pumartu mahan, to achieve the love of Godhead. That is the highest perfection of life. And as you can see on the right hand side, that's the Bhakti Lata tree, and the highest that you can achieve is the prema, which is the love of God. And okay, now basically you have invited me to speak on the Bhagavatam, but it's always important to speak to discuss the qualifications of a speaker. Now, the reason that I'm speaking is basically because of mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he orders that Bharat Bhumite Haila Manusha Janmayara Janma Sartakari Karo Paropkara. So anybody who has got this his birth as a human being in the land of Bharata should make his life successful by working for the benefit of all other people. And Yare Dekha Tare Kaha Krishna Upadesh and Amar Agya Guru Haya Tare Idesh. So by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who orders anybody who can speak about Krishna to become a guru and a spiritual master, and by his mercy is that I'm daring to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, one other thing to remember is it's good to know about the qualifications of the speaker, but what are the qualifications of the listener? Because a speaker may speak everything, but what are the qualifications of a listener? Can anybody tell, looking at the pictures on the left-hand side, whom am I alluding to? About the qualifications of a speaker, whom should we listen to like?
Pariksit King Pariksit.
No.
Sanak Kumara. Naimisharan.
No, I forgot the name, but it's the person who had died.
Okay, no.
Kumara.
No, okay, I'll tell you. So this is listen like Dundukari. Now, do you know about the story of Dundukari? It comes in the Srimad Bhagavatam Mahatmya.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, I'll just give a brief outline because I can't go into the details of the story. Otherwise, we'll run short of time. So Dundukari had committed all sorts of abominable activities in his lifetime, and And so he, at the end, when he died, he couldn't even get a material body. So he remained as a ghost. So he approached his brother, who is Gokarna, who is a sadhu, and said, brother, you need to do something for me. I've got a ghost body. You need to do something for my liberation. So Gokarna goes and he does the Shraddha ceremony for the dead brother. But even then, he still remains in the ghost body. So he says, please do some other solution. He goes to Surya Dev and asks, what can I do for my brother? And Surya Dev says that only thing you can do to help your brother is by reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. So Gokarna immediately arranges for Srimad Bhagavatam recitation, and he invites everybody from the village to come and listen at the same time. And during this time, Dundukari, because he's in a ghost body, he doesn't have a material body. He enters into a bamboo stick. So you can see the bamboo stick that's shown in the picture. He enters in a bamboo stick and he listens to the Srimad Bhagavatam for 7 continuous days. Each day as he listened, one of the knots in the bamboo broke. And on the 7th day, Dundukari got a spiritual body. And he came and prayed to the Bhagavatam, prayed obeisances to Bhagavatam. And also immediately he noticed that the Vaishnava Jans, or the Bhagavad Parshads, they came to take him back to Vaikunta. So when they came to take Dundukari back to Vaikunta, at that time Gokarna stopped them and said, this seems very unfair. The entire village has been listening to Bhagavatam class, but you are taking only Dundukari back. So the Vaishnava Parshad said, yes, the entire village listened to this Bhagavatam story, but they were not listening with the same keen attention that Dundukari listened to. So what Dundukari was doing was he had one-pointed attention while listening to Bhagavatam, and he did 2 other things. He did Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. Nididhyasana means the meditation. So apart from just listening to Bhagavatam, you need to contemplate on it, and you need to meditate on each and every teaching. So that's the reason only Dundukari is going to Vaikunta. The rest of you are not going. So immediately Gokarna said, okay, I'll do the Bhagavatam recitation again. And this time when he recited again, the entire village, all the villagers, they paid full attention to the Bhagavatam recitation. And even Lord Krishna appeared there, and everybody was taken to Vaikunta. So this just shows the importance of just not hearing it plainly for the story part of it, but to contemplate on what the teachings are for me in it. And that's what is the most important qualification of a listener. And the second important qualification, I would say, is to be like a swan. What is the special feature of a swan?
If a mixture of water and milk is given, it will drink only milk and not the water.
Yeah. So what do you get from that?
So you have to take only the good and from any other person, or if you think in touch with, and not take any bad.
Yeah, no, very nice, Mataji. Yeah, because I heard Prabhupada say this all the time, but I just wanted a video to make sure that such a thing really happens, and I found this video. And essentially, yeah, the swan, even if you mix water and milk, it just takes the milk and leaves away the water. So we shouldn't have the dosha buddhi and finding faults in anybody, because there's good in everyone, and there's always some or the other faults. So we should discard all the unnecessary things and just take the nectar. Okay, now coming to the chapter per se, now there are 6 sections in this chapter. The first section is about when Vidura returns to Hastinapur from pilgrimage. The second section is the conversation between Yudhishthira and Vidura. The third part is why Vidura has come back to Hastinapura and his purpose of staying there. The fourth section is where Vidura chastises the Dhritarashtra. The fifth section is when Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, and Vidura, they leave, and Yudhishthira has a lamentation, and then Narada Muni comes and gives instructions. So we'll take one section at a time. But before we do that, I just want to know, what are the 2 illusions that bind the living entity to this material world? What illusions do we have? Illusions or delusions, whatever you may call.
That we are this body.
That we are this body, okay. That's number 1. Number 2?
Maya?
Maya? Yeah, Maya is a very broad term. Maya is what is binding us, but anything specific? What illusion do we have?
That we are able to control things.
Okay, okay. Yeah, no, very, very nice, Masi. But I will give the evidence from the Bhagavatam itself. So Bhagavatam says there's just two illusions which is keeping us in the material world. And those illusions come, it's mentioned in Bhagavatam 5.5.8. So Janasya Mohoyam Aham Mameti. So the two illusions, as Mataji said, I means you consider yourself to be the body. And the second illusion you have is everything in relation to this body are mine. So my brother, my sister, my house, my family, my
Jay, I'm okay with Nari fresco.
Jay, how do we do the getting rid of cookies and refreshing?
Okay, sorry. So yeah, so you have first is the I illusion, which is you consider yourself to be the body and mind. And the second is the mine illusion, which is, oh, this is my relatives, these are my, this is my house, my car, my things. So these are the two great illusions. And this is very important to understand when we read this chapter. Now, my next question is, because you have had a reading of the verses of this chapter on Tuesday. So could you tell me who are the two characters in this chapter who are under illusion? And who are the two gurus that remove this veiling illusion? Anybody?
Dhritarashtra is one of the characters who's living under an illusion.
Illusion, okay.
And the guru, one is Vidura.
One is Vidura, okay. The second character who is under illusion? Okay.
Gandhari.
Okay. So I'll disclose. So it's Dhritarashtra and Yudhishthira. So first is Dhritarashtra. What is his illusion? His illusion is that, oh, I'm old, I'm dependent, I need protection. I can't live without protection. So he's staying back in along with the Pandavas, even despite having hatched so many plans to kill them in the first instance. He just stays because he feels that he is elderly. So he has a mentality of a child or an elderly person who thinks that only he needs protection from his parents. He needs to be cared for. He's very dependent, and he can't do anything without being protected. And it's his guru is Vidura, who comes and shatters that illusion. But the second other important illusion is of Dhritarashtra, who thinks that he's the one who is protecting Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. So he feels that I'm the one who is protecting them, and they are dependent on me. If I don't look after them, then they can't survive. So he feels that he's the one who is giving protection to them. So he has the illusion of being the carer. And this illusion is shattered by Narada Muni. So this is how this chapter is built up. So let's focus on the first section. The first section deals with when Vidura returns to Hastinapura from his pilgrimage. And it's important to understand the background of Vidura. So Vidura's background so I'll speak about two aspects. One is Vidura's background, as you all know. He was Yamraja, Yamraj, and he was cursed to become Vidura. And then we'll discuss about Vidura's birth and the reason why he left Hastinapura. So why was Yamraj cursed? So the story goes that there was a Muni named Mandavya Muni who was living in his ashram performing tapasya and meditation and other austerities. And at that time, some of the robbers, they robbed the king's treasury, and they went into this ashram, seeing that the soldiers were after them. They just went into this ashram and they started hiding all the loot from the king's treasury in the ashram. And the soldiers caught up with them. They arrested all these miscreants, these robbers. And at the same time, they arrested Mandavya Muni because they thought that he was also an accomplice to this crime. So all of them were presented before the magistrate. The magistrate, after hearing the case, gave a punishment of what is known as impalement, as you can see on the left-hand side, a very horrific type of punishment. So that was being given, was ordered for everyone, including for sage Mandavya. Muni. So just before Mandavya Muni was executed, the king happened to come to know that this is happening, and he immediately came running, and he stopped the punishment, and he asked for pardon from the sage. The sage then said, "Oh, I need to go and meet Yamraj and find out because he's the one who gives the destiny to the living to the living entities." So he said, "I have to go and meet Yamraj and find out why has he given this sort of punishment? Why has he put me into this sort of punishment? Why has he allowed such a thing to happen?" So he goes to Yamraj and asks for the reason. So Yamraj says, "Okay, let me look through your background and as to what you have done in the past." And he goes through his records, and he says that when you were a child, you did a nasty thing. So you took a thorn and pierced an insect from the backside, and that's why you are going to get, you deserve this sort of punishment. So Mandavya Muni immediately got very upset and angry, and he said, how comes something that I have done as a child when I was innocent and didn't know, was under the age of 12 years, because in the Shastras it says that under the age of 12 years, some of the sins or things that you commit, you're not entirely responsible for that. How is that? You don't know even this much, and you have given this punishment to me. Because of this, you will get a curse, and you are going to be born as a Shudra, in a Shudra family. And so that's how Yamraj got the curse, to become a Shudra. And the curse was for 100 years. And so Yamraj was born as Vidura. And as you can see from this family tree, you can see Vidura was born to a maid servant by Vyasa Muni through Niyoga. There's a very, very complex story, or a nice story with this background, but I don't think I have time to go through it. But essentially, I'll just briefly tell that when Vichitra Virya, that is the husband of Ambalika, died childless, then Satyavati, whose son Vichitra Virya was, she approached Bhishma and said, Bhishma, you should either take up the throne, because there's to run the dynasty, or you should have Niyoga with the wives of Vichitra Virya and get a child. Bhishma said, I can't do either of them, because I have taken this vow of celibacy, and I've said that I'm not going to take up the throne. So then Satyavati discloses to Bhishma that actually I have a son called Vyasa Muni, which I had before marriage to Vichitra Virya, and he's a sage. So is it appropriate to come to get him and have a Niyoga with Ambika and Ambalika to get a heir to the Kuru dynasty? So Bhishma said, yes, that is appropriate. And that's how Vyasa Muni approaches. And when Vyasa Muni approaches on the order of Satyavati to have Niyoga, Ambika immediately closes her eyes out of fear. And that's why Dhritarashtra was born blind. Ambalika was very, very, very scared. And that's why she had a son called Pandu. Then this, because Dhritarashtra was born blind, Satyavati requested Vyasadeva to have another Niyoga with Ambika. But this time Ambika just sent a maid servant, and that's how Vidura was born. So Vidura was born through by Vyasa Muni through Niyoga with a maid servant. But he was very, very, because the maid servant was so respectful to Vyasadeva, so Vidura, he said, would be a very, very intelligent person, and he became the counsel to Dhritarashtra. So Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura, they were all half brothers. And Vidura became the counsel, and he was treated very well by Dhritarashtra. Now, why did Vidura leave Hastinapur? Now, Dhritarashtra would always seek counsel from Vidura for any matter. So when the war was almost unavoidable, that's when Dhritarashtra asked Vidura as to what should we do now. So Vidura gave a frank advice to Dhritarashtra. He said that do not listen to your son, a wicked son Duryodhan. Okay, he's going to cause ruin to the entire Kuru dynasty. So you should give Pandava their rightful, when they are the rightful heir to the throne, so you should give their rightful share in the kingdom. Now Duryodhan got immediately very upset, and he said, he immediately started saying bad things to Vidura. So basically he said that you son of a Shudra, you are just dependent on us. How come you say all these things? You have to just leave this kingdom with nothing except your life. And Vidura immediately took this as a mercy of Krishna, and he left for a pilgrimage. That's how Vidura leaves Hastinapura. And then what he does on his pilgrimage is again interesting. Just around the time when Vidura is going on pilgrimage, Krishna, this is a long time after the battle of Mahabharata is over. Krishna decides to end his pastime on the earth, and at that time Uddhava is very, very, very sad. He approaches Krishna and says, I know that you're trying to end your pastime on this earth. I will not be able to live without you, so please kindly take me along with you. So Krishna says, no, Uddhava, you still have a duty to spread my message, my message here on the earth. So you shouldn't leave. And Krishna instructs the Uddhava Gita, what we learn as Uddhava Gita in Canto 11, to Uddhava. And just when he's instructing to Uddhava, thus you can see one more Muni is there. So he's the Maitreya Muni who also gets the same message. And when Vidura goes around on his pilgrimage, he meets this Maitreya Muni, and that's where he gets all his instructions from Maitreya Muni. And the Vidura Maitreya Samvad forms a major part of the Canto 3, and he gets all the knowledge about the self and our relationship with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So after he has got all this knowledge and his instructions from Maitreya Muni, Vidura decides to come back to Hastinapura. And so one of the important verses that comes in the first section is this one, which says that Vidura, once he came back to Hastinapura, he was offered, he ate sumptuously, took sufficient rest, and was comfortably seated. Now, what it's the highlight of this verse is that it says that whenever somebody approaches as a guest, you should, according to Indian moral codes, they should be treated very well, received very well, so that they don't feel any fearful situation, and they should be looked after well. So that's the main import of the first section of this chapter. Now, just going to the second section. Now, this is the conversation. So after he's rested, he's taken care of, then Yudhishthira and Vidura, they have a conversation, and which is attended by all the members who are there in Hastinapura. And Yudhishthira asks Vidura to tell about his pilgrimage and how to which all places he had been to, and what and how he cared for himself and other things. And he mentions this important verse. He says that actually you are devotees like Vidura, like you yourself, are verily holy places, because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart, and you turn all the places into pilgrimage. So Prabhupada expands on this, and he says, he mentions another important shloka in Bhagavatam, which goes by this. Says, Yasyatma buddhi kunape tridatuke swadi kalatradishu bhaumya ijyadi yatirtha buddhi shalilena karhichi janeshva bigneshu saiva gokhara. He says that nowadays people, when they go for pilgrimage, all they do is they just go there, dip in the holy river, and then they think that is the entire purpose of the pilgrimage. But because we identify ourselves with the inert body, and just assume that all the persons in relation to this body are permanently my own, and such a person is no better than cow or an ass. So essentially, if you go to a holy place and don't associate with the sadhus like Vidura, then your visit to a holy place is actually of no real benefit. The second important verse that comes in this section is this one, that when Vidura instructs Dhritarashtra, he says everything about his places of pilgrimage and the news of everybody he has met, but he doesn't mention about the news of annihilation of the Yadu dynasty. And the reason he doesn't do that is because he cannot stand to see the Pandavas distressed at any time. And because calamities come on their own accord, and it's important that we don't discuss this unpalatable news with anybody. And the learning point for us is that there will always be, in any organization, there will always be some good and bad things. It is important not to discuss about all the bad things that happen, that might be happening, because they don't benefit anybody. And it's not good. Like, for example, in ISKCON, something might be happening somewhere, and there's always bad press for some things which are going on. These are things that shouldn't be discussed. And the other thing is about the calamities, as he said, that the calamities come of their own accord, because anything bad that happens, it happens by the will of, ultimately by the will of Krishna, and it happens on its own record, on its own accord. And hence, Prabhupada, in his purport, he mentions this often quoted verse. He says, Tasyaiva heto prayate tako vido na labhyate yad brahmatam upariyada tallabhyate dukkha vadanyata sukham kalena sarvatra gabiram hasa. He says that because we have been moving up and down in this material world for a long time, not achieving our ultimate liberation, we should not waste our human life by trying to again achieve some more sense enjoyment, and not focus on our highest purpose, which we mentioned was the self-realization and achieving the prema. Because he says that as far as the happiness derived from sense enjoyment is concerned, it will come automatically to you, automatically, in the sense that you have some prarabdha karma which will bring the happiness or from sense enjoyment automatically to you, just as we don't make any effort to get any distress in our life, but distress automatically comes in our lives because of our prarabdha karma and all the karmas that we have done in the past. They automatically come to you. Similarly, the happiness from sense enjoyment will come. So don't waste this human life just running after sense enjoyment. Yeah, that's the important and philosophical message from this verse. And so if anybody has any questions, yeah, please let me know, because I'm conscious of time, and that's why I'm just going a little bit fast. But if anybody wants to ask anything at any point, please let me know. Okay, so now moving on to the third section. Now the third section deals with why Vidura came and stayed in Hastinapura. So Vidura, he left all he left all the luxuries of the palace life and went on a pilgrimage. And why did he come back to Hastinapura? His one and only purpose was for the benefit of Dhritarashtra, and this shows the importance of having a sadhu sangha. Now, Dhritarashtra, although he just had a very, very, very close attachment to his son Duryodhana, and took a lot of wrong decisions, but he always treated Vidura very well. So that's the importance, that the little Agyata Sukriti that you do by treating your sadhus very well, it will always come back. Like just Vidura never forgot this mercy of Dhritarashtra, and he wanted to come back and help Dhritarashtra to get out of his rotting life and instruct him on the higher spiritual message. So whenever you have association with sadhus and do something good to sadhus, remember that the sadhus will come back and they will help you in your spiritual life. And this is what Vidura does. So he comes back just for Dhritarashtra, and he gives instructions to Dhritarashtra right now, and he says that, dear brother, please remember that the eternal insurmountable time imperceptibly overcomes all those who are too much attached to family affairs. So basically what he says is that we are so much engrossed in our family life. We think about, oh, let me do this, let me do that, let me first get my children into this school, that college, this thing, get my children married, and then I will do the spiritual practice and all those things. So we get so much engrossed that we forget our ultimate purpose in human life, and we don't even realize that the time has gone by so quickly. Just like, for example, when I think back, I think it's almost 20 years now since I came into UK, and it just feels like I came just yesterday, really. So you just get so much entangled in your material life that you just don't know that the imperceptible time is just passing by, and you are not achieving the ultimate purpose of human life. So he says to Dhritarashtra that you are getting old, and beware that the eternal time is going to overcome everyone. And then he goes on to chastise Dhritarashtra. So now that's the good thing about when somebody becomes a guru, is that their chastisement is their greatest mercy. When you accept somebody as a guru, when he chastises you, know that he's offering you the greatest mercy. So he says that Dhritarashtra, you have become old, and now your digestion power is all gone, your memory is gone, and you're still trying to stay back and to enjoy the luxurious life in the palace. But what you don't realize is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has approached all of us as eternal time. So it just, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 10.34, he says that Mrityu sarva harashchaham. So I am time. So I am come as all devouring death. So Krishna approaches everyone as death. So the time doesn't wait for anybody. And Prabhupada mentions in many of his talks, he mentions that people may say that I don't believe in God. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. And then Krishna and Prabhupada says that to all those atheists who say that they don't believe in God, they will see God at the time of death. So death is something that you can't escape. Each one of us has to cannot escape death. And in 11.32, Krishna says that time I am kalosmi loka kshayakrut pravruddho lokhan samahartum iha pravruddha. Time I am the great destroyer of this world. So everything material is going to get destroyed at some point. And this shloka is a famous shloka which was quoted by Robert Oppenheimer. So when he conducted the first nuclear explosion, and he was asked by the press media as to what he thought, he was grave and he just quoted this shloka. So for a Western person to quote a Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavad Gita shloka at that time, to say that time I am the great destroyer of the world. So he realized that what he has discovered is just going to destroy the world. Now, to understand the importance of why we shouldn't be wasting this time, this precious time, Shankaracharya, he quotes in his Bhaja Govindam prayers, he says, Nalani dalagata jalamati taralam tadvat jivitam atishaya chapalam viddhi vyada vimana grastam lokam shoka hatam cha samastam. So he says, just as the water drops on a lotus leaf, it's so unsteady and it may fall at any time. Our human life is also just as unsteady as that. We take it for granted. We think we make preparations for our old age, for pension and this and that, and just make so many arrangements. But Shankaracharya laments and he says, whatever you do, your life is so uncertain, just like a water drop on a lotus leaf. It might just fall off any time. And this world is full of misery, so don't waste your time. So we don't realize how much time we waste. And Narottama Das Thakur goes on to say, Hari Hari Bifale Janma Guai, Manusha Janma Paya, Radha Krishna na Bhai Bajiya, Janiya Suniya, Vishakhainu. So he laments, and this actually is the favorite prayers of Srila Prabhupada. How do I say that? It's on Yamuna Devi Dasi Mataji, who was one of the earlier devotees and disciples of Prabhupada. She writes in her book, she says that she once approached Prabhupada and asked Prabhupada, my favorite prayers are the Shikshashtakam prayers. What are your favorite prayers? And Prabhupada immediately said, Hari Hari Bifale Janma Goin. So this is my favorite prayer, because it tells the lamentation of Narottama Das Thakur, and actually each and everybody's lamentation who's got a human body. It says, oh Lord Hari, I've spent my life uselessly. I've obtained this human birth, but I have not worshipped Radha and Krishna, and I have knowingly drunk poison. So it is like you're knowingly drinking poison, but not doing what you are supposed to do after achieving the human life. Prahlad Maharaja again instructs to his demon children friends. He says, Komara achret pragyo dharman bhagavataniha durlabham manusham janma tadapya dhruvam artadam. So he says that this, dear friends, don't waste this childhood life. Just this human form of body is so precious. It's very, very rarely achieved. Although this human form of body is so temporary, as we just saw, that like a water droplet which just falls off any time, but it is so important, because only in the human form of life you can do devotional service. Of the 8,400,000 species of life, you can only do your devotional service and achieve perfection or get liberation in the human form of life. So don't waste time. Don't think I'll do it at a later age, from tomorrow, from day after tomorrow, and sort of thing. So it just shows the importance of time. Now, because I've spoken a lot, I'm going to ask one more question to you. Now, I'll tell a story about this material world and how we think we are enjoying in this material world. And this is a story which actually Vidura tells to Dhritarashtra. Now, before I tell that story, first, one question to all of you. What are the two names that are used to describe this material world? Two Shastric names. So actually, they are used by Krishna himself to describe this material world. Anybody?
Dukhalayam or Shaswatam.
Excellent, Mataji. So Dukhalayam. Dukhalayam means, yeah, place of misery. So he guarantees that this material world is a place of misery. And what is the other name?
Ashaswatam.
Ashaswatam, yes, it's temporary, but Dukhalayam is okay. Ashaswatam is temporary, but any other name? So Mrityuloka. So he calls it a Mrityuloka, so a place where you're guaranteed death. So one guarantee that you have in this material world, which nobody can escape, is death. So he quotes in 9.21, he says, Tetam bhuktva svargalokam vishalam kshine punye martyalokam vishanti evam trai dharmam anuprapanyak. And gatagatam kama vishanti, and the mrityulokam vishanti. So he comes back to the mrityuloka. So this material world. So even after you enjoy in the heavenly worlds, you finally come back to the mrityuloka. So two things that are guaranteed is, firstly, this is going to be a place of misery. And secondly, you are guaranteed death. So each one of us, actually, to put it bluntly, each one has got a death sentence. So it's there's no escaping this fact. And the story I was going to quote about the material world, which Vidura actually tells Dhritarashtra, is it comes in the Mahabharata. So basically, he says that there was once a man who was staying close to a forest. And so he once enters into the forest, and as soon as he just out of curiosity enters into the forest, and then slowly he gets trapped in the forest, and he's chased after by all the wild animals. And he then particularly notices a wild elephant that's chasing him. To escape the wild elephant, he runs hither and thither, and then he finds a tree. He climbs up the tree, and then he just goes on to hang on to a branch of the tree. But the elephant doesn't leave him. He just comes almost to the tree. And then he realizes that the branch that he's holding, there are two big mouse, one white and one black, that is nibbling on the branch, and the branch might fall off any time. And then he looks down and he sees that there are venomous serpents in a small water reservoir down below. And to compound all that, he's very, very distressed. And at that time, he just notices that a lot of bees are stinging him. And then he looks up and he sees that there's a beehive up there, hanging up there. And a drop of honey falls on his tongue. And he immediately finds, wow, that's nice. That's such a sweet honey. And despite all the other problems that are going on, he sees, oh, this is such a nice taste. And he immediately keeps on adjusting his tongue to get more and more drops of honey in his tongue. So this is exactly what Vidura says is the sense pleasure that we get is just like those drops of honey that are falling. And the elephant that's depicted in the story is actually your prarabdha karma. So it never leaves you. it's all the problems that all the previous things that you have done in your life, they are after you, so they will somehow catch up with you. Second thing is the white and the black mouse that are here, that is nibbling on this branch, is the day and the night. So your day and night is passing by, and your life is just going on. You have a limited number of breaths that you have in this present lifetime, and it's just being nibbled up by the day and night that's just passing. So as you know, in 2023, January is gone, so time just flows by. And then the snake, what does snake represent? Snake represents the time or the death. So it's the eternal time or death is there. So the death is just there around the corner. And lastly is the bees. The bees that are stinging him represent all the three types of kleshas that we get: the adhyatmic, adidaivik, and adibhautik kleshas. So all the three types of problems: the problems related to the body and mind, problems related to all the other living entities that give problems to you, your friends, your enemies. And then the problems just because of material nature, some earthquake happening, all those sort of miseries because of bad climate, everything. So all the different kleshas that you get. So among all these sort of miseries, what we are focusing on is those small pleasures, small sense pleasures that we get. And that's all we are focusing on. So essentially, yes, we forget that this is a dukkhalayam. Whatever we do, there's so many things that are giving distress. And Burijana Prabhu, one of the devotees of Prabhupada, he mentions that, okay, let's try to analyze the sense pleasures. Now we have 5 senses. Just take any one sense. So he takes the touch sense. So what sort of highest sense pleasure that you can get with your touch sense is feeling something soft, feeling something very soft and nice, smooth, etc. But what is the pain that you can get? Take a hammer and hit your finger, and then you know what extreme pain you can get. So if you compare the pleasure that you can get out of any sense and the pain that you can get through those sense, you can realize how your body is made to suffer pain, really. So we have this illusion of sense pleasure. We feel this world is very pleasurable, and that's why Prahlad and when Mataji said dukkhalayam ashashvatam, when Krishna says dukkhalayam ashashvatam, he says that you may be born to an Ambani or Adani or any other rich billionaire, and you may think that you are having a wonderful life, but even if you have a wonderful life, remember, this is ashashvatam. This is not going to last. So essentially, ultimately, it is a dukkhalayam ashashvatam. The other thing he instructs is to Dhritarashtra. He says that he's called undisturbed, who knows the real purpose of human life, and he goes to an unknown remote place, freed from all the obligations, quits his material body when it has become useless. So do not still be attached to your family and your relatives even at this age. You should be undisturbed and go to a remote place and be a first-class man, be a Narottama, because Narottama is one who awakens and understands the real purpose of the human life and understands the falsity and misery of this material world, and being fully dependent to the personality of Godhead residing within his heart, and he lives leaves the ties of family association and goes to the forest. And also he mentions about one more instruction he gives to Dhritarashtra is, now the Kali Yuga is fast approaching, so please don't waste any more time. So right now we are in Kali Yuga, but there's something else I wanted to mention, which I mentioned in the Bhakti Shastri class, is that although we are in Kali Yuga, which is 432,000 years, if you see here, the brownish gray part is the Sandhya. Sandhya means you don't have a sudden transition from a Dwapar Yuga to a Kali Yuga. It doesn't happen suddenly. There is something called a transition phase. And this transition phase between Dwapar Yuga and Kali Yuga is 100 Divya years or celestial years. And each celestial year or Divya year is equal to 360 human years. So essentially 36,000 years from the start of Kali Yuga is actually the Yuga Sandhya, that is the dawn of Kali Yuga, Sandhya, as you can see here. And similarly, towards the end of Kali Yuga, you'll have another 100 years of Sandhya between this Kali Yuga and Satya Yuga. So 100 years this side and 400 years on the other side before Satyuga. So it doesn't happen like black and white, like one phase entering into a second phase. So that's why some may feel that this Kali Yuga is not actually that bad. You still see a lot of good people around, and you have to remember that you're still in the Yuga Sandhya. The real Kali Yuga begins after another 30,000 years. So of the 36,000 years, we have passed 5,000 years. And that's why Prabhupada had predicted that ISKCON will grow for another 10,000 years. So while we are in the Sandhya period, the ISKCON will grow. But later on, when the real Kali Yuga begins, there'll be no temple worship, nothing. Everything will be doomed. Will be real Kali Yuga. All the symptoms that you see. Okay. And also, if somebody is very much interested as to where we are right now, we are in the 51st year of our Brahma. On 51st year of Brahma, on his first day of the 51st year, 7th Manvantara, 28th Yuga, and we are in the Kali Yuga. So you can see where we are right now. Okay, now coming to the next section. The next section deals with when Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, and Vidura leave and Yudhishthira laments. So Dhritarashtra accepted the Vanaprastha order. So Vanaprastha order is basically the retirement order. So we have the Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. So he doesn't take sannyas, but he takes the Vanaprastha order, wherein they take a retirement and detach from the family life, because he takes along with him his wife, that's Gandhari. And once he leaves, then Yudhishthira laments. He thinks that he's the one who is being carrying, and without his care and protection, how will Dhritarashtra, who is blind, and Gandhari live in the forest alone? So he laments, and just to take off his illusion, Narada Muni appears there, and he gives instructions to Yudhishthira Maharaj. So he says that don't think, Yudhishthira, that you are the one who is looking after them, because everyone is under the control of the Supreme Lord. You may feel that you are the one who is taking care, but don't forget that everything is under the control of the Lord. Nothing is happening without his control. And he's the one who has brought you into this family. So basically, when you have your family, you think about your wife, your children. You think, so it's like some sticks floating on a river. Sometimes all those few sticks come together, and sometimes they go in different directions. So essentially, we have all been brought together in one family. Like your wife, your children, they are all having different karmas. We all come together. And it is he, through our previous karmas, that he brings people together and he disperses them. It's the Lord's will that's bringing you close together and disperses them. So everything is under his control. We think that we are the one who is looking after our children and our parents and other things. We have this sort of false illusion, but it's actually Krishna through us, obviously. And so the Lord brings men together and separates them. So just like children play like a chessboard, you bring all the coins together and then you disperse them at the end of the play. So the Lord brings men together and then he separates them as well. Now, this is the most important aspect of his instruction. He says that this gross material body, so this human body that we are under, we think we are independent. We think we are independently doing so many things. So I am independently working hard, and I've worked so hard, and I've become a doctor and all those things. So, but we don't realize that we are not independent at any time. There are three factors which are controlling us at all time. First is Kala. Kala is the eternal time. Your time just keeps going. It's controlling you. Then second is your karma. Your present karma and the previous karma is always binding you. And the third is the gunas. So there are three gunas that are binding you. So we are always tied by these three things. And when you are tied by these three things, how can you really help anybody else? You think you are helping somebody else. How can you really help? So how can somebody who is already in the jaws of a serpent, which is the Kala, so we are already going to die, how can you protect somebody else from death? So this is what it says, the three things that are binding us. Firstly, whatever actions we do, we are always bound by these three aspects of material life, the sattva, rajas, and tamas. And then secondly, it means we have a death sentence. Everybody has got a death sentence. That is there, and that's not under our control. We don't know when that's coming. And we make so many plans, but we have no control over that. And the third is your karmas from the past several births, millions and trillions of births. the present karmas that you're doing without your own without your own knowing as well. Sometimes you accumulate karmas. So essentially in Bhagavad Gita 18.40, Krishna says this: Na tadasti prithvivyam va divi deveshu va puna sattvam prakriti jairmuktam yadevi syatri gunai. So no matter you go, there's no living being existing in this material world or in among the demigods. So whether you go to a higher world by doing a lot of punya work, you will still be bound by these three gunas. So then nobody can be free from these three modes of material nature, which is the sattva, rajas, and tamas. So essentially, we are bound like a puppet, and we think that we can help somebody else. How can we, who are bound completely by the modes of nature, really, in a true sense, help somebody else? And the other important shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam 2.1.4 that Prabhupada quotes every now and then, he says, Deha patya kalatradishva atma sainyeshva tatsvapi desham pramatta nidanam pashyanapi na pashyati. So people who are devoid of their Atma Tattva, who do not inquire into the real problems of human life, they just are attached to the false fallible soldiers like the body, children, wife. We think I'll look after my children, I'll look after my son, and my son will protect me when I'm old, will protect me from death and all those things. So nobody can protect you from death. So you think that we are too attached. We think my wife will look after me, my children will look after me, my friends will look after me. But essentially, each one is on his own spiritual journey. And when we are ourselves bound, as we said, by kala, karma, and guna, how can we really help somebody else? But this is not a hopeless situation. Krishna himself gives a promise in 12.6 and 12.7. He says that yetu sarvani karmani mai sanyasya matpara ananya naiva yogena mam dhyayanta upasate tesham aham samuddharta mrityu samsara sagarat bhavamina chirat partha maya veshitat chetasam. So somebody who performs the devotional service unto me without deviation and unmotivated devotional service, for them I am the swift deliverer from this ocean of birth and death. So he gives a promise that once you do the unmotivated devotional service to Krishna, he comes achirat. Achirat means very quickly he comes and delivers you from this ocean. But more merciful than Krishna is his devotees. And so he says, Mamcha yoga bicharena bhakti yogena na sevate sagunan samatitam brahma bhuvaya kalpate. So one who engages in full devotional service at once transcends the mode of material nature and he comes to the level of Brahma. So only devotional service is the real thing which can help us. Now the final aspect which Narada Muni reveals to Dhritarashtra says that he tells about the future moments of Dhritarashtra. He says that Dhritarashtra will perform Ashtanga Yoga, and then by his power of penance, he will burn in the sacrificial, he'll burn in the fire of penance. And then Gandhari will take up a sati, and she will also give up her body. So he tells about the fate of Dhritarashtra and suggests to Yudhishthira that you don't have to go to the forest and look for them. This is what is going to happen to them. So essentially what Dhritarashtra achieved is he went up to the Ashtanga Yoga. He was practicing Ashtanga Yoga, which is basically meditating on the super soul. So you have the Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga is the supreme one. But Dhritarashtra performs the Ashtanga Yoga and he achieves the Brahma Bhuta platform. So he does not achieve the Prema platform, but he achieves the Brahma Bhuta platform. And that is why Vidura, when he sees this transformation in Dhritarashtra, he is affected with delight. He's happy that Dhritarashtra has achieved the Brahma Bhuta platform, but a bit of grief as well, because he hasn't achieved the highest ultimate which can be achieved in the human life, which is the Prema, that is the Bhakti Yoga. And then he leaves for his place of sacred pilgrimage. So just to summarize that we have discussed, so we have discussed about the two greatest illusions that are depicted in this particular chapter, which are highlighted in this chapter, that keeps us in this material human life, are I and mind. So I meaning that we associate so much to this material body and mind. And then the mind illusion, saying that, oh, this is my son, my family, my wife, my friends, and they are the ones who are going to protect me. And that sort of illusion that we have, this sort of attachment that we have, is what keeps us in the material world. And the second thing is, we feel that we are independent, independently doing our things, but we are at all time bound up by the kala, karma, and the three gunas. So we are not free. We may think we are independent, but we are always under these three factors. And the only important thing that can save us is the association of great devotees. As you can see, Dhritarashtra was saved by his good association with Vidura. He always kept him in, he always served him and kept him in good stead earlier on. And Vidura came back to liberate him, to give him the knowledge. And the last important point that was depicted in this chapter is Varnashrama Dharma. So essentially, you see, at some point in our life, we have to show a sense of detachment and move on, and not always be stuck to the family, to the family life. And just like Dhritarashtra and Gandhari, they show that they took the Vanaprastha ashram. And all this gradually, actually, these ashrams are so made that they gradually elevate us and teach us surrender to the Lord. Because when you go on a Vanaprastha ashram, you are surrendering yourself to the mercy of Lord. You no longer expect your son, your children, and other people or your relatives to come and help you. You completely rely on God's mercy. And that sort of surrender is something which we should aspire for. So I think we almost reached to 1 hour, and I've been talking a lot. So what I'll do is I'll end this talk by showing you a beautiful video to show as to how we are all attached in this material world. So each one of you might be thinking, oh, I know that I'm the soul. I know that I'm not the body. We all know that. Then why am I in this material world? Why does Krishna not liberate me? Why do not I achieve this spiritual world? And this, why am I still trapped in this material world? I really, really want to go back to Krishna. But actually, this video will show you that it's so easy to say that we are detached, but our attachment is so strong to this material world. And the last attachment that we have is the sense of I-ness, the false ego attachment. And one of the example I can quote is, which I have quoted several times before in Bhakti Shastris, is when Indra was cursed to become a pig. And he became a pig, and then he had several piglets. He had a wife, he had children. And then when Brahma came to say, to remind him, oh, Indra, oh, Mr. Pig, you were Indra, but you got cursed and you came here. Now we feel that it's not appropriate for you to be suffering. You please come back and take your throne as Indra. The pig says, no, I can't come. Who is going to look after my wife? Who is going to look after my children? I need to stay here. So that's the sort of the thing, and that we don't want to leave that sense of I and minus. Even when Indra, the pig, is reminded that he was an Indra, he didn't want to leave. And this video will show that. So I'll just tell you about the video. This video will show about how a monkey comes and gets trapped. So the monkey is us coming and getting trapped in the material world. So I'll just play the video. So here the person is putting the sensory pleasures inside, which is the fruit for the monkey. And then he hangs it on a tree and keeps it tied. So we are the monkeys coming into this material world, just coming as curiously into this material world and saying, oh, let's come and have a look. It might be some pleasure here. So he's going for his pleasure. He's going for his fruits. So he's putting his hand to get some fruits. Okay, so now the problem is the hole that is made in that is just so narrow that your hand can go when it's empty inside. But as soon as you hold a fruit, you can't get it out because you make a fist. So the monkey cannot get its hand out because it does not want to leave the fruit that is inside. So he's bound. He tries so hard to get out of this material world. So he can't get out. He's trying so hard, and then he's got caught. So this is exactly what we are doing. Is we say that we have left everything, we are detached, but there is something or the other that we are holding to, without leaving which we can't go to the spiritual world. So, sorry. Yeah. So yeah, no. So I just would like to say that I've used the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavata Subodhini and Gurujana Prabhu's lectures for this talk. And yeah, are there any questions? Thank you very much for patiently listening. I know I've just gone slightly over time, but there's always time for questions.
Thank you, Prabhuji. That was wonderful. If you could share the slides, that would be extremely helpful for all the devotees. I'll put it on the chat if that's okay. Does anyone have a question? If you want to raise your hand or unmute yourself and just ask, you want to do so now?
Yeah, no, I think I've stunned everybody by a long talk.
I've got a few questions if that's okay. I'll wait.
Please.
I'll wait. I'll wait. I'll ask. Oh, we've got Snehal Prabhu here.
Oh yeah, thank you, Snehal Prabhu. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Kamal Prabhu, thank you very much. Absolutely superb class as expected. Just a minor question, really. I know that Vidura's chastising Dhritarashtra, and Dhritarashtra has this attachment to his family. But when we're preaching to let's say, if we were in the manner room preaching in the temple room to people who are quite new to KC, if you were trying to explain to them that you shouldn't have these attachments to family, how would you simply explain to somebody who's not that progressed in KC?
So thank you, Snehal Prabhu, for a wonderful question. So the attachment to family. So here, the important thing to realize is the attachment we should have is the inner feeling that we should have is that this is all because of mercy of Krishna, rather than feeling that you are the protector. You should feeling that you are doing everything independently. That sort of feeling should not happen. Detachment doesn't mean that you stop taking care of your child, you stop taking care of your parents. Rather, that's something that we should do. But you should not think that you are the sole protector of anybody. You can't actually protect anybody without the mercy of Krishna. So essentially, do everything, but have a sense that it is because of the mercy of Krishna that you are able to do this. So I would actually quote a story to put that into perspective, because it's easy for me to say put Krishna at the back. So I'll quote the story because story puts this in more in a better way. So Sridhara Swami, he basically wanted to take sannyas. So he had this urge to take sannyas, and he was ordered by one of his spiritual masters to take sannyas. But his wife was pregnant. So he thought, oh, my wife is pregnant, I have to take care of her. How can I take sannyas now? This is not fair on me. So he said, okay, let my wife deliver first a child, and then I'll take sannyas. So his wife delivers a son. But unfortunately, after delivery, the wife dies. So the son is all alone. So he feels, oh, the son is totally dependent on me. How can I take sannyas? How do I take sannyas? And at that time, a lizard, a baby lizard, falls from the ceiling and falls on the floor. And then he just was contemplating, how do I do this? And then the baby lizard was just there helpless, and he thought, we're just looking at the baby lizard, and then suddenly he noticed that small ant was crawling in front of the baby lizard, and the baby lizard immediately popped its tongue out and ate that ant. So essentially, then he realized, we think that we are the one who is protecting and taking care of everybody, but actually it's Krishna who is doing everything. So you have to protect and you have to do whatever, but you have to remember that all that you're doing is through the mercy of Krishna. And so you have to do everything. So it is said that do everything as if everything depends on you. But remember that it's all because of the mercy of Krishna. That's what we have to remember. So attachment means the false sense of attachment is what is alluded to in this story. To think that like Dhritarashtra had this sort of attachment, saying that, oh, I'm so old, I'm so reliant on Yudhishthira. Without Yudhishthira, I can't survive. That sort of sensation should not, that sort of feeling should not be, is what is discouraged. And similarly, from Yudhishthira's side to think that he's the only sole protector. So in the story, what happens is that he realizes that actually I'm not the one who is offering protection. Sridhara Swami leaves. And later on, several years later, when he comes back to the same village, he notices that his child has now become a great preacher and has become a Shastric scholar. How did that happen? He was adopted by a wealthy person there who gave him great education, and he became Swami. So yes, it's true that you shouldn't neglect your family or your relatives, but have that in your mind that you are not the sole doer. And that is what causes bondage. It is not your helping or being attached there to your family. It is the sense of feeling that you are the only person who is doing it, which causes the bondage. So internally be detached, but externally carry on with your loka vyavahar. It is the same instruction which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives to Raghunath Das Goswami. So when Raghunath Das Goswami, he's got so much internal detachment. He's from a rich family. He's so detached. He wants to leave everything and come to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says, Antare Nishtakar. So have full faith inside. Antare Nishtakar, Bahya Lokavyavahar. So outside behave exactly as you behave in this material world. But Antare Nishtakar, inside have this Nishta and faith in Krishna. And Achirat Krishna Tomai Karibe Uddhar. So very quickly Krishna will come and do mercy on you. So it's a difficult philosophical concept to explain to a newbie. But but that is what you have to tell, that you have to know that whatever you do, it's all because of the mercy of Krishna. Yes. I hope it helps, Neil Prabhu. But
thank you very much. Yeah, brilliant.
Meena Mataji, do you want to mute yourself, Meena Mataji, and ask your question?
Yeah. My question was about the three types of karma, Sanchit, Prarabdha, and I can't remember the name of the other. Is it possible to give us a quick overview of which karma relates to what years in your life, etc.?
Okay. So yeah, so the three types of karma. One is the Prarabdha karma, Sanchit karma, and Kriyamana karma. So Sanchit karma is actually so basically we have had millions and trillions of births. We don't remember any one of those. So what happens is you have accumulated a huge infinite sum of karmas. So infinite karmas. And in this material life, in this human life of say 100 years, you can't actually nullify all the karmas. So that stays as a prarabdha. So that stays as the sanchita. Sorry, that's the baseline. That's the sanchita. So it stays like that. But this human life, you are allocated a prarabdha karma for this human life. So a certain portion of that comes and says that, okay, in this life, Kamal Prabhu, you have to enjoy and suffer this much of your karma. We can't do, you can't eliminate the entire karma, but this much you have to do. That is the prarabdha karma. And then the kriyaman karma is, unfortunately, although I'm eliminating this part of the karma, I'm still doing extra karma, and that's the kriyaman karma. So this life, I'm doing some extra new work, which is adding to my karma base. So no matter what you do, you can't neutralize everything to zero. We try hard. We say, okay, I've done this. Let me neutralize this. So it's not possible. The only way is to surrender to Krishna. And that's why the only way out is not by aiming to neutralize, like, oh, I've done this karma. Let me neutralize this by doing this. You can't neutralize your karma. So those are the three things. One is the sanchita, which is your from many, many lives. Prarabdha is for this life of human. You have been given this. That's why you see some good comes to you, some bad comes to you. Get a good child, you get some may not get a very good child, some may have some problems. Those are all your prarabdha karma that you have to suffer in this world. How you go through this world, you are creating new kriyamana karma. And that again goes on to your reservoir. So unfortunately, it's a cycle you can't get out. And that just shows how we are so dependent, so much bound.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Snell, Prabhu, you got another question?
Yeah, sorry. Just to clarify, when you were telling us when you put up a slide of the man hanging from the tree, I didn't quite catch. You said that the bees represent the three kleshas, but I wasn't quite sure how that. Can you just explain that?
So essentially, the bees are just stinging the person. So essentially, there's no time. So although we are the mouse represents the day and night, which is just reducing our lifetime. Snakes are the death, and the elephant represents the karma, the prarabdha karma that we have to suffer in this world. But when we are hanging there, trying to enjoy the sense pleasure, the honey that's dripping, we think we are enjoying the sense pleasure, and we're just focusing on that. At the same time, like, for example, I'm getting the adhyatmik, adidaivik, and adibhautik klosha. Today, my mind is not good because somebody said something bad to me at work. So that adhyatmik klesha is that. Something is hanging in the back of my mind. Oh, that person didn't talk to me nicely. Then at the same time, I got a bit of backache today. So that is the adibhautik, so some body and mind. So something or the other is always stinging you. So it's not that, okay, now I'm relaxed. So something or the other, you're not never without any sort of problem. So it is adhyatmik, adidaivik, and if everything is good, at least you may feel the weather is so cloudy and misty, it's not nice. Oh, something, it's how nice it would be, it was sunny and pleasant. Something or the other is always there to not give you that sense of perfect happiness.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Okay, Surya, is it Prabhuji or Mataji? Sorry,
Surya Prabhu.
you're on mute.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. Very nice class. Thank you very much. Just one small question, Prabhuji. Yeah, you mentioned a couple of times about service in the presentation, or probably more times about service. One question is, would you say, from what Prabhupada said, then, or like, would you say chanting is a service, or would you say it isn't? That's the question, because we need to chant like a number of times to get there. But then sometimes people say service is mainly like cooking food, prasad, or cleaning or something. So that's why it could be chanting or it's not. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, so you brought the most important point. Yeah, so Kali Kale nahi ar kona dharma. So this is the only dharma that we have in Kali Kale. There's no other dharma. Chanting. And why chanting is so important? Because this itself is such a big topic and such an important topic. Why is chanting considered so important? There are two important things, even if you approach it from a scientific perspective. Why is chanting so important? Chanting, it's called a mantra. Mantra is the one that can get control over your mind. Mantra. It can only get control of your mind. It can abate your material mind. And your question was, is chanting for sort of devotional service? Yes, it is a type of devotional service, because when you chant, you are associating with Krishna directly. So yes, it is the highest form of devotional service that is recommended in the Kali Yuga by all. Sarva mantra saranam yehi ar nahi dharma. So all the mantras and all the shastras finally reach and tell that this name, or the holy name, is the only real dharma for this Kali Yuga. Yes, but one thing to remember importantly, Surya Prabhu, is if I ask you a question, the one thing that traps us, and why we feel, there are many who feel that I've been chanting for so many days for 16 rounds, I'm not still seeing that sort of benefit in me. Why is that? Why is that happening? And the answer to that lies in a question that I'll ask you. So Surya Prabhu, just as an example, how many rounds do you chant? If you can answer.
Prabhuji, I started with a few rounds. Nowadays, maybe I do like 25, 30 rounds, something like that. But perfect. I try like just to do as much as I can.
Thank you, Surya Prabhu. I'm not putting you in a spot. I'm just trying to give an example here. So you said, I chant 16, 25 rounds. This is the problem. This is actually the 10th aparad that we do. This is the 10th aparad that we are doing with chanting. What you have said is the example, and what we all do. We feel, I chanted 16 rounds, that I chanted. As long as you feel I chanted, your chanting is having no effect on you. Okay? The chanting happens. That is when the chanting will really have the effect. As long as you feel I chanted, I have done it, the chanting is not really happening. So in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he says that, okay, what does he say? He says basically, Ata Shri Krishna Namadi na bhavid grahyam indre sevan mukhe hi jivado swayameva svaratyada. So this Krishna name is so transcendental. that it comes automatically in your mind. It can't be grasped by your senses. Your material senses can't grasp the holy name. What we are doing is Vaidhi Bhakti. Even this chanting that we are doing with the feeling of I am doing also helps. But it is not, because actually when the real chanting happens, even one name of Krishna is enough to liberate you. But that real chanting happens when that I sensation goes away completely. As long as you feel I have chanted 16 rounds today, that's only helping you. It's not that it's useless. It still helps you. But it is not the ultimate. I think when you reach a stage where the chanting happens and you are grateful that the chanting is happening on my tongue, rather than feeling that I am the one who is moving my tongue and chanting, rather than you are grateful that, oh, the chanting is happening. That's when the real benefit of chanting comes, which is a very, very high stage, which is what we all aspire. But as long as you have the sensation, I am chanting, it is very, very good, because that's the only way we can do. But it is still not the ultimate stage of chanting. I hope that helps, Surya.
Yeah, it's very helpful, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Thank you.